So my name's Ross. I'm talking this morning about integrating holistic health practices in the treatment of injury. So I'll be starting off by, I suppose, explaining a little about what I do and who I am, and then going into that topic. So hopefully, if you yourselves have dealt with injuries, or if you know anyone that has, you'll get some takeaways that you can actually use. So I'm hopefully going to, over the next 15 minutes, give you some valuable information to take away versus just a sales pitch. So I wanted to give you a quote that'll be sort of the theme of what I'm talking about for the next 15 minutes. And that quote is, "We're infinitely more complex than a car." That's a quote by a mentor of mine, an English osteopath and naturopath. And it was actually part of the title of a journal article that he wrote talking about the healthcare system that we live in, or that we have access to, and how intricately difficult it is to deal with the human body, because it is such a unique system compared to, say, the simplicity of getting your car serviced. So I'm a health and movement specialist, so it's similar to a personal trainer. I'm based here in Port Melbourne, and I work with people around injuries, improving their health and their lifestyle, and also helping people improve their performance for different sports or exercise. What I thought I'd talk about briefly, because it's probably it gives a bit of a background as to why I work with clients and patients in this way, is talk about my own injury and recovery, and how that's shaped the way, or it helped me view an alternative way of understanding human health. So before I got into this profession, I was a soldier. I grew up in the country, in the Yarra Valley, and I had 3 sisters. So even though my dad taught me to be tough, I couldn't handle being around 3 sisters. It was a bit too intense, too many women in the household. So I joined the army at 17, and over a 7-year career in the army, I deployed 3 times to the Middle East and Asia, and the role that I did was an infantry soldier. So to, in a nutshell, explain what that is, basically you carry a rifle and you're running around in the bush. So it's probably the most physically demanding role you can do in the Defence Force. So you would think that the level of training we had, physical training, would have been pretty impressive. And it was. Like, they taught us how to be mentally tough. So every training session was intense. It was about getting to the point where half the group were vomiting, people literally couldn't move. And that was good, because over years of that, you learn how to put up with pain that serves you in the rest of your career. But in terms of training smart, that was a little bit different. And that was something that we didn't, it's a bit different now. It was, 18, 19 years since I enlisted. But back then, I remember I went to the gym for the first time. It was on an army base in Townsville. And I asked the physical training instructor for some guidance, and he gave me a printed out program that involved a lot of different machine exercises, and said, go forth and train. And that was the only guidance I got around strength and conditioning over a 7-year army career. And that, combined with not really knowing much about nutrition or rest or repair or holistic health, I believe they're the reasons why I sustained a number of injuries, as did a lot of my mates. And the main one that I sustained was a serious back injury. So I herniated my L4, L5, which is a disc in my lower back. Has anyone experienced that sort of injury in the room? A lower back injury? Yeah? Disc injury, was it? Yep. So for those that don't know it, a brief anatomy on the spine. It's made up of different bones called vertebrae, and between the vertebrae there's these little gel-like discs with a hard shell, but it's gel-like material on the inside. A disc injury, or a bulge disc, is where the disc starts to push out one side, typically the back and to one side, and it can start pushing on a nerve. So that's called a disc bulge, and it can be really painful and take a while to recover from. The next stage from that is what's called a herniated disc, where the contents of the disc actually breaks through the wall of the disc and starts seeping out into the spinal column, and that can be really painful. It can lead to numbness, it can lead to loss of strength in the legs. So that's what I had. I was overseas when it happened, so I flew back to Australia and I proceeded to see a number of different osteopaths, chiropractors, physiotherapists, acupuncturists, neurosurgeons. The surgeons said that unless I had surgery, I would not be able to get back to a normal life. I wasn't able to sit down. I definitely wasn't able to run or do any exercise, so the pain was pretty bad. I even got traction therapy. Now, traction therapy was pretty amazing, or messed up. It was almost like torture, really. So basically, they put me on a machine where they attached the lower half of my body to one side of the machine, and then from here up to the other side, and they pulled my body in opposite directions. So I think that is actually a torture technique that was used hundreds of years ago. But it was something that they tried for a while to help treat disc injuries, to try to create more space to allow the contents of the disc to suck back in. Surprisingly, that didn't work. I tried hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and the list goes on. And then I listened to a talk by a holistic health and exercise specialist based out of California by the name of Paul Chek. And I was blown away by his truly integrative approach to the human body, to health in general, and to movement and exercise, sports performance, injury. And I was convinced that after all of the normal approaches not helping me, that I should explore this one. So he trains practitioners all over the world. He trains osteos, physios, chiros, doctors, and also fitness professionals in his approach. So I found the most qualified practitioner in Australia, who was based in Sydney. So I went up and I saw him over multiple visits. What was so interesting when I first saw him was his approach was completely different. He assessed me in a way that no one had assessed me before. And I'd seen, as I said, neurosurgeons and the best physios and osteos and chiros I could find. He spent 3 hours with me, one-on-one. He looked at my posture, he looked at the way my body moves. He asked me questions about my digestion, my diet, my lifestyle, how I slept, the way I managed stress. And he put together a plan that I then had to carry out myself. So he didn't treat me, he didn't do any manual therapy or anything like that. He just gave me a plan and told me to carry it out. Yes, and that plan contained some normal things that you would imagine with a back injury. I had to do core exercises and strengthen my glutes and improve my posture and things like that. But he, through asking about signs and symptoms that I had, was pretty sure that I had a parasite infection. Now, you wouldn't think there'd be a link between gut issues and lower back issues, but they are pretty close together in the body. And anyway, so even though I'd had a stool test that said I didn't have a parasite infection, I followed the protocol that he gave me. And 3 months later, I hope no one's eating right now, a parasite came out. It's about that long, and it was alive when it came out. And through that and a number of other practices, from cold showers to meditation to eating organic whole foods, and taking out foods that were causing aggravation, within 6 months I was out of most of the pain that I was experiencing prior. I was able to sit down, which was pretty cool. I was able to get in and out of a car. But I kept training with him. I kept learning more about how to overcome this stuff. And now I do everything. And now I'm back into martial arts again. I trail run, I road run, I climb mountains, and do everything else I can pretty much, with no barrier from my lower back at all. And that was pretty amazing, because I was told that without surgery I'd be a lost cause pretty much. So I've decided, okay, I'm going to learn what the knowledge that this guy has, I want to learn it. Because this guy in Sydney, he didn't have a degree. He had been a personal trainer who then went and studied for about 9 years under the Czech system in California. So I said, okay, I'm going to do the same thing. So I've been studying under that system for several years now. I'm on my way to becoming a fully qualified practitioner. It takes, as I said, a long time to do. And now I work in that space, because from what I experienced myself, I'm like, this is what people need to understand, is that to really change our health, to really overcome from an injury, it's not about making little tweaks on the periphery of what our diet and lifestyle and health is. It's about making massive shifts. Because if I go back to that quote that I said at the start, we're infinitely more complex than a car. My interpretation of that is that the human body it's a living organism. It's made up of numerous systems that work together to grow, to overcome external threats, to maintain homeostasis or a state of balance and harmony in the body. It's not different systems that have their own sort of deal and they're not talking to the other systems. It's not that at all. So if we're going to try and change the body, overcome an injury, overcome an illness or a disease, it requires a total shift. And that takes time to get to the bottom of what it is that needs to happen for you uniquely to overcome your problems or your injury. So when I work with clients now, the first step is to get to know them. It's to spend a good amount of time with them, and I'm talking hours, not minutes, to effectively diagnose what's the underlying factors that's causing their pain or their problem. Not just looking at the shoulder and saying, okay, so you've got shoulder pain, all right, we're going to look at the rotator cuffs, we're going to look just above and below, but we're not going to look at the whole system. You need time to look at the whole system. So that's the first step. We then look at the four pillars. We talk the four pillars of health and our existence as human beings. And the first one is diet. This isn't a nutrition talk, so I'm not going to go into the details of it, but diet is so important. The second one is rest and repair. So how effectively the person is giving themselves enough rest, be it sleep, be it downtime during the day, to make sure that they're not in a state of fight and flight all the time. Because there's no way that proper rehabilitation and recovery is going to occur if we're in a state of fight or flight, stress state. The third one is mindset, which is huge. That comes down to everything from having effective goals set out to making sure that you are content with the life that you're living, because all of these things are huge and can have a massive impact on any progress you make in any health protocol. And then the last one is movement. Movement's important, but I say it's last because those other three are even more important. And traditionally in my industry, the fitness industry, all we look at is the movement side of things. When really, in the whole spectrum of health, it comes last in a lot of ways. Movement's important, and I live for movement, but it isn't the most important thing. So, just some quick takeaways for you. If you're yourself dealing with any issues, be it injury, pain, illness, I'd propose or invite you to ask a couple of questions when you're going through your process of healing. What does your body really need? And the answer to that's typically not just going to be one thing. It's going to be multiple things. As I said, the human body's a connection or a group of systems that are all working together, and we're pretty robust. So when something goes wrong, it's typically multiple things that have occurred, multiple systems in our body that have been affected. So we need to look at supporting all of those systems, reversing all of those different things that are going wrong in order to get a meaningful long-term result. So what's your body really needing? It's typically not just the magic pill medication. They may help for a period of time, but the body is not deficient in any drug. I'll sort of definitely stand by that. What's blocking your body from achieving balance? That's an important one. I mean, it often comes back to our lifestyle. Like every person I've worked with over the last 10 years, and myself, I realized it was my lifestyle that led to the body that I had, the injury that I had. Yes, I had external issues or problems coming to me from the military, carrying heavy loads and all of that leading to a back injury. But I do believe if I had better exercise, better posture, better diet, that would have all prevented me from potentially ever getting that injury. Listen to your own body. I think the biggest thing I learned going through my rehab was that no one was going to fix me. I needed some education and advice from others, but I had to fix myself. All of the massive changes that I had to make. It wasn't me laying on a table and someone treating me and then I walk out 3 months later and I'm feeling better. I tried that and that didn't work. And I would argue that doesn't work for a lot of people. So, just to finish off, actually, I don't think I finished that statement, did I? So just to listen to your own body. I think we're our own specialists. And even though we need to get advice of doctors, of surgeons, of osteos, physios, and people maybe like myself, you're your own specialist of your own body. So the more we're in tune with what's going on, with how we respond to different foods, different exercise, the better we are at testing and adjusting and shaping our lives to get the best results we can. You're your own specialist. So my business is based here in Port Melbourne. As I said, we work with people in injury, rehabilitation, injury prevention, sports performance, so helping people get better at moving their body for their chosen sport. And that can be a triathlon, or it could be a grandmother wanting to be able to pick up her grandkids without experiencing back pain. And then everything in the holistic health space. So looking at people's diet, lifestyle, stress management, and helping give them guidance to be able to tweak things to get more out of their bodies and minds. So we work with people one-on-one in a group environment as well, inside and outside of a gym, because not everyone works well in a gym. And I'm a big believer that the gym is not where the best movement occurs either. It can just be a vehicle to getting to the next stage. And we do online coaching as well. So if there's anyone that does want to chat further about this, I'm just going to hang around at the back afterwards. And as part of this wellness day, we're offering 40% off our initial health assessment, which is a 3-hour assessment and program development. So we're offering 40% off for 3 people only. So if you're interested in that, come and see me at the end. And I hope you got some value out of that you can take into your own lives. Thanks very much.
I'd just like to say I'm one of Ross's clients. I worked with him about 1.5 years ago after I came out of hospital. I was in hospital for 5.5 weeks, recovering from a leukemia diagnosis. I came out of hospital not being able to walk upstairs, not being able to do very much at all. And now Ross has got me to the stage where in a few weeks I'm going to be doing the 1,000 steps in Dandenong. I just want to say that about Ross, not about you.
Thanks, Nathan. I'll give you that $50 later.
Oh shit, I thought it was 75.